Hi everyone, welcome to Miss Adams Teaches Romeo and Juliet. In this video we are going to be having a look at Act 3 Scene 2, possibly one of the top 5 most devastating scenes of the play. It is the moment, of course, where the audience sees Juliet sat in her bedroom waiting for Romeo to return to her for their wedding night, completely unaware of the tragedy that has just taken place. So although it will be sad, let's get started.
Okay, so let's start with a quick plot summary as always. The scene begins with Juliet alone in her bedroom, and she is, of course, waiting for Romeo to come and join her for their wedding night, completely oblivious to the horror and the conflict that has just taken place. She is, of course, thinking about her love. She's thinking about nighttime and how kind of desperate she is for the night to arrive so that she can, of course, be united with Romeo and spend this time together. It's an absolutely beautiful soliloquy that is all about that sort of idea of impatience and nervousness and excitement about their wedding night and about consummating the marriage. Of course, that joy and that excitement does not last long because the nurse arrives with dreadful news. Now, there is confusion in this scene because at first when the nurse comes in to tell Juliet what's happened, she makes it sound like it's Romeo that is dead, and so there's a good chunk of conversation where poor Juliet thinks that Romeo has been killed, and she's obviously in absolute devastation. But then it is confirmed that Tybalt is in fact the person who's been killed, Tybalt being her cousin, and that it was by Romeo's hand. This is obviously a moment of extreme anguish and turmoil for Juliet, where she feels the mass betrayal of Romeo, and she uses lots and lots of oxymorons, lots of juxtaposition to talk about her feelings of both love and hatred. She talks of his beauty, yet at the same time as a deceiver. It doesn't last 100% long because the moment that the nurse then sort of joins in and criticizes him, Juliet is horrified and then sort of takes it all back and basically recognizes that in this moment she owes loyalty to Romeo. But in her mind, Romeo is now dead, or is going to be banished, which she says is pretty much the equivalent of death. And so she then starts to kind of flirt with the idea of death as well. And she kind of suggests that actually her wedding night will be spent with death rather than with Romeo, which is obviously very, very ominous. And includes quite a lot of foreshadowing. But at the end of the scene, she gives the nurse her ring and says, please go and give this to Romeo, and so that he knows that I still love him. And the nurse is like, well, we're going to find a way for the two of you to be together. Okay, let's get cracking with looking at Juliet's soliloquy. Gallop apace, you fiery-footed steeds, towards Phoebus' lodging. Such a waggoner as Phaethon would whip you to the west and bring in cloudy night immediately. So straight off, she's using an imperative. We've got this wonderful metaphor. Phoebus' lodging is actually a metaphor for the west. So what she's actually hoping for here is for the sun to set, so that the night can begin. We've got an allusion to Greek mythology, Phoebus being the sun god, Phaethon being his son, and we've got this real sense of urgency as she demands that they hurry, that they gallop, so verb very much to do with speed, because what she wants is for the night to come, because with the night comes Romeo. Spread thy close curtain, love performing night, that runaways' eyes may wink, and Romeo leap to these arms untalked of and unseen. So love performing night has been personified, and she is, and obviously the moment you're thinking love performing it, it's a reminder of the act that they are about to commit. You know, they're about to consummate their marriage and have sex for the very first time. She imagines Romeo leaping to these arms because she's sort of lying there ready for him, untalked of and unseen. The irony here is so painful because, of course, untalked of, no, everyone is speaking of Romeo because of what he's done, and unseen, well, he's about to be unseen because he's going to be banished, but she doesn't know, and we do, which makes this scene oh so painful. Lovers can see to do their amorous rites by their own beauties, or if love be blind, it best agrees with night. We've got this really lovely romantic language. Amorous rites, it's like the ritual of love. So she's using euphemism for having sex here. And she's thinking about the fact that it's going to be done in the nighttime, in the darkness, hence if love be blind. She calls to the night, come civil night, okay, again using imperatives, though thou sober suited matron, all in black, so now the night is being personified, and learn me how to lose a winning match, played for a pair of stainless maidenhoods. So this is a little bit more specific now. Lose a winning match. You've got that lovely bit of juxtaposition between lose and win. But what she's actually talking about here is like having sex for the first time. So she will lose her virginity, but in a winning match, as in it will be winning. You know, it's the pleasure that she will have from spending the time with Romeo. And what are they playing for? A pair of stainless maidenhoods. So this is to do with the purity of her virginity, her maidenhead. So she's talking about the fact that what they're playing for is virginity. She won't be a virgin any longer. Hood my unmanned blood, bating in my cheeks with thy black mantle. So what she's saying here, hood my unmanned blood, is she's saying cover up the redness of my cheeks, so that, you know, Romeo can't see my sort of shyness. But the fact that it's unmanned blood is interesting as well, because that suggests not used to. So again, it's a reminder of her purity. Till thy strange love grown bold, think true love acted simple modesty. So you've got lovely personification here. Strange love in this case is new love, as in new experience. But she's also thinking to herself or imagining, well, I will become confident. When it says grown bold, it's, I will be confident. And when I am that confident with our lovemaking, or in our lovemaking, it will feel as pure. So, I mean, she really is thinking about, you know, consummating the marriage, and it's so full of excitement and newness. So we've got more imperative here. Come night, come Romeo, come thou day in night. So lovely metaphor that Romeo is the day in the night. He is the light in the dark. For thou wilt lie upon the wings of night, whiter than new snow on a raven's back. Now look at this. We've got a parallel to Act 1, Scene 5, when he referred to her as a snowy dove trooping amongst crows. So we've got a mirroring of Romeo's language, again reminding us how united and how together they are. And again, it's referencing this idea of light in dark. Just as he saw her as a light in the darkness, so she sees him. Come, gentle night, come, loving black-browed night, give me my Romeo, and when he shall die, take him and cut him out in little stars, and he will make the face of heaven so fine that all the world will be in love with night and pay no worship to the garish sun. So there's repetition again of the summoning of night. We've got more language mirroring going on from Act 1, Scene 5, when Romeo says that she teaches the torches to burn bright, and he's of course talking about the stars. She's doing the same thing here, saying that he will make the face of heaven so fine that all the world will be in love with night. So she imagines him putting the stars in the sky and them being so beautiful and so bright that no one even needs to worry about daytime anymore. We don't need a sun because we've got the starlight of Romeo. So the hyperbole here, just demonstrating just how much she loves him, again expressed through that very romantic language. Oh, I have bought the mansion of a love, but not possessed it. And though I am sold, not yet enjoyed. Okay, so this metaphor here, I've bought the mansion of love, but not possessed it. So she's got the house, but she's not in it. She's been sold, as in marriage, but not, yet not enjoyed. So she's basically saying, I'm halfway there. We're married, but we've not consummated. So this is all about the kind of sense of immediacy and her excitement about the moment. So tedious is this day, as is the night before some festival to an impatient child that hath new robes and may not wear them. So lovely analogy here that is again showing us her sense of anticipation, her sense of excitement. She's like a little kid that has new clothes but isn't allowed to wear them yet and is waiting for that opportunity to put them on. That's how she views sleeping with Romeo for the first time and being united with him. Oh, here comes my nurse, and she brings news, and every tongue that speaks but Romeo's name speaks heavenly eloquence. So again, a reminder of the way that she views him and their union, the purity of it, that Romeo's name is the equivalent of heavenly eloquence. So high praise indeed. Obviously, this moment is made powerful because of the dramatic irony. It's not just in the beauty of her words, it's what we know has happened. And so watching her on stage demonstrating such excitement and such love when we know that Romeo has been banished creates pathos. That's pathos with a P, which is feature of tragedy, and it's the creation of extreme pity. The other thing that makes this so painful is that it is an inversion of Act 2 Scene 5. In Act 2 Scene 5, she also was sat alone in her room waiting for news, and the nurse arrived with that news, and that news was marriage. That news was life. And now again, here she is, waiting alone, full of anticipation. But the nurse is bringing news of death. So the absolute opposite. Okay, I said before in our plot summary that there's this sort of sense of confusion that I just wanted to demonstrate for you here. The nurse is saying, I saw the wound, I saw it with mine eyes. God save the mark here on his manly breast. A piteous corse, pale, pale as ashes, all bedaubed in blood, all in gore blood. I swooned at the sight. This moment is so graphic. It gives us the suggestion here that the nurse is actually kind of traumatized by it as well, which is perhaps why she hasn't sort of realized and kind of corrected her mistake, because obviously Juliet at this moment thinks that it's Romeo. And if you look at the language here, the repetition of course means corpse. It's so brutal. And you've got your simile and repetition, pale as ashes. Ashes, of course, reminding us of death once more. All bedaubed in blood, all in gore blood. So she repeats blood, but adds to it gore blood. So she's really graphic. And all this while, oh, break my heart, poor bankrupt, break at once. Juliet thinks it's Romeo until this moment. Oh, Tybalt, the best friend I had. Oh, courteous Tybalt, honest gentleman, that ever I should live to see thee dead. Juliet says, what storm is this that blows so contrary? So lovely metaphor here, again suggesting how quickly this has changed, like from Romeo to Tybalt. Is Romeo slaughtered and is Tybalt dead? So she still has in her mind this idea of Romeo being killed as well. The nurse then says to her, the nurse explains, no, Tybalt is dead, but by Romeo's hand, and Romeo is now banished. Right, Juliet's reactions. You should be able to see here how full of oppositions this little part of the speech is. I've given you two words here, oxymorons and antithesis, two types of juxtaposition. An oxymoron is where you've got two opposing ideas right next to each other, creating one little unit, like a noun phrase, for example. Whereas antithesis is where the oppositions are at either end of a sentence or a structure or a line. So we've got a range of them running through this. O serpent heart with a flowering face, did ever dragon keep so fair a cave? So here we've got the positive and the negative. So this is antithesis. Note her exclamative, her interrogative. So she's sort of in shock. Beautiful tyrant, fiend angelical, dove-feathered raven, wolfish ravening lamb. Excuse me. Despises substance of divinest show. So these ones are all oxymorons. Okay, so an angelic fiend. A fiend is a demon. An angel, well, is an angel. A beautiful tyrant. A raven, so symbol of death, but covered in dove feathers, so white versus black. So you can see here how conflicted she is, how perplexed she is about her feelings towards Romeo. There's such strong emotions in this moment. And they continue. A damned saint, an honourable villain. O nature, what hadst thou to do in hell when thou didst bower the spirit of a fiend in moral paradise of such sweet flesh? It's all about the idea of the exterior being so perfect and it being rotten and corrupted underneath. You know, was ever book containing such vile matter so fairly bound? So it's a beautiful book cover, but the actual material of the book is vile. So this is the moment of realization, how strongly she feels about Romeo. Now again, even though she is expressing such sort of dark feelings, powerful feelings of hatred at this moment towards Romeo, we've still got mirroring of his language, because of course right at the very beginning of the play in Act 1 Scene 1 he also uses a sequence of oxymorons to express his feelings about love. Okay, so even though in this moment she is being so very critical, it still shows their togetherness. But she does change her mind, and she changes her mind because of this moment. Shame come to Romeo. The moment someone else speaks ill of him, she gets that protection, that protective loyalty for him. And look at the way she responds. Blistered be thy tongue for such a wish. Wowzer, that's feisty towards the nurse. He was not born to shame. Upon his brow shame is a shame to sit. But 'tis a throne where honour may be crowned, sole monarch of the universal earth. Look at the contrast from the previous moment. He's like, she's not blaming him at all now. She's saying that shame does not belong on Romeo. Romeo's head is for a crown. He should be the sole monarch of the universal earth. Goodness me, that's some big hyperbole. What a beast was I to chide him. So now she's angry at herself. And this is really where Juliet's character, it's like this is a definitive moment for her. She was expecting to grow up because she was going to have sex with her new husband, and that was the moment of growing up. And that's not happened. Instead, she's grown up in a different way, in the realization that her husband, that her Romeo, is her absolute one and truly, and that her past loyalty to her family is no longer due. It's now all due to Romeo. So it's a really big change. And you can see this in the lines here up on the screen, because she's talking about the horror of it. Some word there was worser than Tybalt's death that murdered me. So note the personification, the word murdered her. I would forget it fain, but it presses to my memory. The word she's talking about is, of course, banished, hath slain 10,000 Tybalts. Okay, so banishment to her is the worst thing, worse than 10,000 Tybalts being killed. And when she just looked down here, Romeo's banished to speak that word is father, mother, Tybalt, Romeo, Juliet, all slain, all dead. So to her, the idea of no longer having Romeo is worse than everyone in her family dying. So this is what I mean about her loyalty changing, shifting away from her family and now being entirely with Romeo. And this is why she feels so completely and utterly lost in this moment. Come cords, come nurse, alter my wedding bed, and death not Romeo, take my maidenhead. So this metaphor and this personifying death, something that is continued now towards the end of the play as well, the personification of death. She's talking about she's never going to lose her virginity to Romeo, so she's going to lose her virginity to death instead. So the suggestion is right now she is considering suicide even from this moment. And when the nurse says, no, I'm going to help you. I will go and find Romeo. She says, give this ring to my true knight and bid him come to take his last farewell. Now, this is obviously so full of that feeling of ominous fate. The fact that it's going to be his last farewell, she means because he's banished, although she has just said this. So it is possible that she is still thinking about the idea of killing herself. But of course, the horror here is that this is what happens. This is exactly what takes place. It is his last farewell, because the next time they meet, well, she's unconscious and he kills himself. So, spoiler, I assume you knew that. Okay, just final thoughts from me here. Obviously, our big themes, marriage and love, yeah, and the impact of marriage. So what happens post-marriage in terms of your sort of love and loyalties, death and conflict, major. Impact of Tybalt's death, what that has meant for Romeo and Juliet and the way that the play moves forward, clearly conflict. Loyalty, family loyalty, loyalty to your husband. These are the big ideas of this scene. One thing that I want you to take away with you with this scene as well is the impact of the structure of it, the way that the scene opens with Juliet so happy and so positive, and then that stark contrast as she discovers what has happened. Playing with the audience emotion like that is so clever of Shakespeare, because we see how dramatic a change it is, and we go through the pain of created by the dramatic irony of knowing that Juliet's happiness and excitement is going to be so short-lived. Well done, Shakespeare. He is good at this stuff. Well, he was good at this stuff. Right, that is it from me. Thank you so much for watching. Any questions, just pop them in the comments and I will get back to you. If you haven't subscribed, please click the button and then you'll know when the rest of the videos are ready for you. Other than that, one thing to say, happy revising.